All right, so I was talking on stream today, and I felt like we had a pretty decent back and forth about loot in World of Warcraft, and I felt like I kind of wanted to get my thoughts more so down inside of like a YouTube video, just to kind of talk about some of the issues that I've been having with loot in World of Warcraft, where I think that they personally should take the loot. And I honestly just want to also hear from you guys down in the comment section, like what your guys' generalized thoughts on loot and WoW are. Are you guys happy with where the loot system stands? Are you guys upset with it? Because they recently have made some changes, like removing bonus rolls. They have also added like a bunch of different stuff to the Great Vault. I felt like I had a lot of decent conversations about the Great Vault systems and like the lowering of Mythic Plus item level. I feel like there was a lot of good conversations in regards to that that I did read, definitely down in the comment section. So I think I wanted to take it a little bit step further and just get my thoughts on the loot as a whole, as it currently stands for like in-game progression systems inside of WoW. So without further ado, let's start, and I will give my opinions on it. Basically, this is just going to be like a talking point video, something that you can put on in the background and just kind of listen. There's not really going to be much on screen. So basically, my point for making this video is that I currently feel like loot in World of Warcraft feels very bad, and I'm not exactly entirely sure why, especially more so as of late than previous expansions, like especially even moving into Shadowlands on the beta gearing up doesn't feel that great either. And just looking at the loot, I don't feel like I am hyped for any of it, straight up. So that got me wondering, why do I feel this way? What do I think could be some of the ways that they could be addressed, and what are some of the fundamental issues with that? So first off, I think that there are too many systems of unique loot currently inside of the game, and with that, it kind of feels homogenized or more or less the same regardless of where you get the loot from. And basically there's no like uniqueness or luster to any of it because it all feels almost too similar, I feel like. With Mythic Plus becoming pretty much a mainstay of World of Warcraft, there with it has been more loot that has been long-term impactful. Just because of like either Titan forging or like weekly caches or Great Vaults or whatever like that, right? So with that, there has been a completely new system added in. So now you have 3 complete systems of loot and gearing options, with it being Mythic Plus, PvP, and now also Raid. So 3 completely separated gearing paths. None of the loot, in my opinion, feels unique enough or good enough, and it becomes too generic to where it ends up, personally, I feel like it feels bad. Basically, to me, like all off pieces, like think about it, your bracers, your boots, your pants, your hands, everything, like your cape, all that shit feels like just a main stat, and then you just get 2 secondaries on top of it. And none of your loot actually ends up doing anything, and they all just end up feeling like shitty stat sticks. And like whenever you get an upgrade, none of your upgrades actually feel very good. Whether or not they have a socket in them, whether or not they have a tertiary in them, whether or not they are 15 item levels over another piece, none of it actually is like, oh, hot damn, this is a major upgrade, I'm so stoked. I don't know the last time that I actually felt like I got like an insanely large upgrade, and I'm not exactly sure why I felt this way until I started scripting out parts of this video and started like writing down some notes for it. And now I think I have like a little bit better of an understanding of why I feel like this. In addition to that, I also feel like trinkets feel like total shit because none of them actually end up feeling good to use. They all end up feeling like generic stat sticks, or their power is just really, really low. I do also think that part of this problem is the fact that they have removed the scaling factor from trinkets from classes. Like the last time that they had this in Legion, you had trinkets that scaled with classes. So you're like prototype personnel decimated that scaled with fire mage because the PPD did fire damage. You had like Tumas Argyros Spectral Thurible scaled with Shadow Priest Void Form. No other person on the planet wanted Spectral Thurible except for Shadow Priests. You had Balanced Druids wanting the Owl Trinket because the Owl scaled with arcane damage from Moonkenora. And I think that the straight up removal of all trinkets scaling with their classes to where some classes wanted some trinkets over another, I think that there was something slightly lost in that, where the allure was like, oh shit, this scales with my class buff. This is kind of dope. So just as a point of reference, relative power of trinkets is incredibly low, and it's about the same as like a bracer slot, a hand slot, a boot slot. It's all those low power relative pieces. And then in addition to that, Blizzard has to balance trinkets from dungeons, raid, and also PvP trinkets on top of that. So there are trinkets that, on top of everything, they all have to be balanced against one another, and their power relative to other slots, like their slot efficiency power, is also super low. I think that historically trinkets have been pretty high in terms of like slot power, but as of late they've been lower than normal. And I think that there could be a lot added by having trinkets be more powerful. At the same time, nobody wants to use dungeon trinkets or PvP trinkets for a full expansion, especially being locked into those, like Harlan's Loaded Dice, like Deadeye Spyglass, like Memento of Angerboda. Like, you don't want to use this for a full expansion. You don't want to have to refarm them every single season of Mythic Plus or anything like that anytime the item level cap gets raised, because that's still your best trinket from PvP. Or from Mythic Plus, or for PvP. I mean, I guess it works the exact same, right? You don't want to refarm badge every single season. Same shit, right? So I'm not exactly sure what the best solution for that is, but personally, like, I do think that there could be something of value from having just like major OP trinkets from raid every single patch. And sure, this is one of the notes I have. If you assign one source of content as the primary source of content, it ends up messing up the other two, but they basically have already decided raid loot is better. And like with trinkets, I feel like this is like absurdly the case. Like, sure, you could have trinkets that are substantially better than Mythic Plus and PvP trinkets, to the point where you don't feel obligated to go back and farm your Mythic Plus or PvP trinkets every single season whenever the item level cap is raised. At the same time, though, you would feel obligated as a Mythic Plus player or as a PvPer that you feel like you almost have to raid, especially if you see there being substantial tangible gains out of raid. But they have already decided that raid loot as a whole should be better. I mean, there's things like the plus 10 item level on final two bosses of a raid instance. Like, they've already decided that raid loot is their premier and prestigious amount of loot, and it's like that. So I do wonder if making trinkets and raising their relative power, I think that's actually pretty important, but then making raid trinkets even more impactful, I wonder how that would shake up. Because I think that it would suck for Mythic Plus only players, because they feel like they're obligated to have to raid. Same with PvPers, because we saw a lot of that. I want to say it was in like Season 2 in Battle of Dazarlor, whenever PvPers were very upset that they had to go farm shit like Diamond Lace Refracting Prism, if you guys remember that. Right now, trinkets kind of suck too. So I think that there is definitely something to be gained. I think that PvP is in a unique spot. Like, for context, they have actually kind of changed PvP trinkets, where PvP trinkets have a 2-set bonus on them, where if you wear 2 PvP trinkets, then you get the offensive value of versatility is doubled whenever you're inside arena, battlegrounds. I don't know exactly what it is. World PvP, some shit like that, right? So I think that that's nice to be able to keep PvE trinkets out of PvP. At the same time, should Mythic Plus players be forced to do raid? And should raiders be forced to do Mythic Plus for that kind of content? And I don't know the true answer, but I do feel like there would be something gained by making raid trinkets like substantially stronger. Not even necessarily than Mythic Plus trinkets, but like substantially stronger than they at least currently are. Yeah. So... But yeah, basically I think they should be about the weapon slot in terms of innate power, as opposed to what they currently are, which is like fucking bracers and shit, right? So beyond that, I do think that there could also be something nice added by re-adding tier sets to the game and adding more interesting trinkets back into the game. And again, this I think would end up fucking over Mythic Plus players especially more than PvPers, because PvPers normally end up having their own stuff. And like, I don't know the best solution for this, because there is a world where you could have Mythic Plus tier sets, you could have PvP tier sets, and you could have raid tier sets. You could have all three, right? Historically, they've had PvP tier sets and raid tier sets, and those coexisted in a world of their own. And I mean, I started in Warlords of Draenor, so I can't speak, but I felt like they kind of worked out asynchronously, and they ended up working out because they lived in like a world of their own, and the things that they benefited were vastly different, right? Whereas like raid stuff was more damage focused, and PvP stuff was more like utility or survivability focused. So, and there was also like resilience and other shit on PvP gear that made it more appealing than raid gear anyway. So that was always interesting. Circling back, I think that there could be something added back to the game by adding back raid tier sets, because like, sure, the argument for removing them was that they end up like slot capping you and you feel like you don't actually have tangible upgrades. But I haven't felt like I've gotten a tangible upgrade in loot that I'm like very excited for since they've actually removed tier sets. Like, you guys know this feeling. Whenever you have your 3-piece of gear, and then as soon as you get that 4th piece, you're like so stoked to equip it. And like, I feel like there has been something lost by the removal of tier sets whenever that did get changed. Like, I wore the exact same Azurite for 4 patches or whatever in BFA. That's not fun. Like, that was so unfun. And like, in Shadowlands, if I wear the exact same legendary, and then the only thing that actually changes from tier to tier is like what trinket I wear, and then just because like raid trinkets are going to be different from patch to patch, and then the cosmetic angles on like what gear I'm wearing, that's gonna suck too. So I think that there would absolutely be something of benefit to be added back by having raid tier sets return. And to the point where I think it would even be beneficial, even if it's at the detriment of Mythic Plus only players. As unfortunate as that sounds, like, I'm a big proponent of, you should be able to play Mythic Plus in isolation, and you should be able to PvP in isolation, you should be able to do raid in isolation. But at the same time, I think that the current state of where loot has gone, personally, for me, I think is worse than the cost of making other players have to occasionally do content that they don't want to be able to have to get to farm out like a 4 set of gear. Because I think that there was more lost by the removal of that than there has been gained by freeing up slots of gear. Like, what are you freeing it up for? Just like random main stat with 2 secondaries that you can kind of pick. Secondary stats like don't feel that great. Like, secondary stats all kind of feel the same. And to me, that's the point of the problem. I'm not exactly sure the best fix for that, but I just wanted to make this video. I want to hear you guys' opinions. Are you guys on the same boat as me? Do you think that they should return tier sets, make trinkets more interesting, even if it's at the cost of, like, maybe if you're a Mythic Plus player, you have to jump in a raid occasionally? Like, is that worth? Or do you think that they should come up with a different system? I mean, honestly, I think that there could be a different system, but I'm not exactly sure what it would be. If you guys have any ideas for like a differing system where like Mythic Plus has its own like actual gearing shit, where like PvP has their 2-set trinket bonus. If Mythic Plus had something like that, maybe even like their own tier set or some shit, right? Something that worked like that, maybe that would be interesting as well. I want to hear you guys' thoughts down in the comment section. And just in general, I think that this was a good talking point video. I actually had a pretty good time making this, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. I will see you guys later. Peace out.